Welcome back to another episode of Let Love Be Your Guide. My name is your host, Dominique Chantel, and I'll be guiding you through this episode. It is such an honor to be with you guys today, and I am just so happy that you all keep coming back, that you keep coming to listen. I just want to say thank you to all who have supported me. If you haven't already, I am going to go ahead and plug my book. Go ahead and get my book, Let Love Be Your Guide, Volume 1. It's a 30-day devotional journal on how I processed through my divorce. And I would hope that you would draw some inspiration from it. This is only the first volume. I'm working on my second volume right now. And this book is going to be about how to love yourself, which is kind of what we're going to talk about today. Let Me Love You is the name of this episode, part one. So, let me love you. So, I'm going to talk about the ways in honor of Mental Health Awareness Month, how you can learn to love yourself. And I think these are key components to life. So, when you learn to love yourself, it's not a selfish act because the Bible tells us that love your neighbor as yourself. So that implies that you have to know and learn to love yourself first before you can love your neighbor, right? And so, with that being said, we have to learn how to love ourselves. So, loving yourself is actually very important to us living this life. And so I'm going to bring to you the first 3 points I think are very important to learning to love yourself. Before I get into that, I want for you to know that I do. If you're listening to this, thank you so much. So continue to like, subscribe, and share my YouTube channel. Please like, subscribe, share my IG. I'm on Instagram, Dominique Chantel. Go and join me there. Download the podcast. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much for your support. I appreciate you. Okay, and so it's like, how do you love yourself, right? And more importantly, how do you love someone else if you don't know how to love yourself? And so I'm going to go ahead and jump into this. We love based on our experiences. And so, whatever that may be, so we were shown love from childhood, and that is how we have learned to love others. And so, with that, we have to make sure that those childhood experiences, if they were negative, they don't carry into our adulthood. And that's why it's important to have a therapist if you've processed through trauma, such as a death at a young age as a child, if you came from a neighborhood where there were just drugs, gang violence, murder. All of that stuff is so important to getting it healed. And the mindset, your mindset has to be delivered from those things in order for you to have a successful life, or what you want, a life where you're flourishing, right? And so I'm here to show you how to love yourself so you can learn to love yourself and others. So the definition of love comes from, for me, comes from the Bible. So when it says love is patient, love is kind. It's not self-seeking. It has no records of right or wrong. And unfortunately for me, I had to learn myself by going through a divorce. And I didn't know what it meant for me to love myself. And so this is something I had to come upon and experience on my own. And I am just so happy that I did. But I'm also like, man, if I'm struggling with this, maybe somebody else is struggling with it, or maybe not. Maybe and you had self-love, at a young age, and your parents instilled that into you. And if you did, man, that's a blessing. I feel like along the way, in our childhood, it's like we learn what love is, from our parents, and they provide us with the love. But I don't feel like self-love is actually taught. I feel like we are taught to have confidence, confidence in ourselves. And that's fine. But what happens when you don't meet the expectation of somebody else and your confidence takes a hit? When you make a mistake, it's like it chips away at your confidence. And so what happens? How do you repair, being confident again after your confidence has been hit, after that has been taken away? Well, the key to that is learning to love yourself, is loving yourself. Because in loving yourself, you can give yourself grace. You can be patient with yourself. You can be kind with yourself. And all those things is what I'm going to talk about today. So, again, for me, my experience was I was living in a cave. I was tunnel vision. I was living life on my own terms, and I was living life not to my full potential. And so when I say I was living life on my own terms, was I was controlling the situations. I was controlling the narrative. I had a plan for my life, and so far it had been working out. I went to school. I graduated from college with my bachelor's degree. I changed majors from broadcast journalism to English. That was unexpected. I pledged Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. Shout out to all my sorors. I had this planned out. I was going to get married. I got married at 25. I was going to have children. I had my first child at 25. And so everything was going as planned. But what happened? Boom, when life hit me. And I was like, whoa, my divorce happened. My uncle passed away. He was the closest person to me that I feel like it was my biological mom's brother. So I used to ask him questions about her. And so what happens when we've been so busy preparing for life and it goes as expected, but then things don't go as expected? And that's where you have to dig deep. And I'm still learning and growing. I want to say I know it all. That's ego. But I digress and have to say, the closer I get to God, the more I just want to be humble, and say, Lord, you take the wheel, you control this. I completely trust you. And that's what I've been doing for about 3 years now. I had no choice but to trust and lean on God. And so let me go ahead and get into my first point. Enough about me. But one of the things I had to do when going through my divorce, and this is a very candid conversation because it's something that I still have to go back to on days, is being kind to myself. So the first thing you have to do is be kind to yourself. I remember the day that I filed for divorce, I felt like I was a failure. I felt like I had not lived up to the expectation of others. And for me, that was who I was living for. I wasn't living for God, and I wasn't living for myself, but living for other people. And that's a red flag. You have to really take a step back and look at, who's in control of your life. Who's calling the shots? Who do you submit to? And for me, that is God. It has always been God my entire life, but I wasn't committed, to him calling the shots. I wasn't consistently seeking him on a day-to-day basis for him to call the shots. And so when my divorce happened, again, it hit me. And I had to be kind to myself. I really had to learn to dig deep, and I had to be good to myself. If you see on Instagram, a lot of the stuff that I post, it's about encouragement, self-development, being good to yourself, affirming the positive. And that's what I believe in, because when we affirm the positive, we attract those things into our lives. And so, not saying that nothing negative is going to ever happen to you, but when things that do happen that are unexpected, you're better prepared for them. You are the person that you want to be in that moment because you've prepared, you've been disciplined. You've been kind to yourself in those moments. And so be kind to yourself. Please, please, please be kind to yourself, whatever you're going through. And this is the key to loving yourself, is being kind to yourself. So I would encourage you, definitely do that. You love yourself by being kind to yourself, number one. Number two, you have to be patient with yourself. And so patience means that you're not rushing through trying to get the master's degree. That was a word for myself. You're not rushing through trying to get the divorce over with. You're not rushing your healing. You're not rushing the growth that's taking place. You're not rushing to finish school, that's in line with the master's degree. But know that everything happens in time, in the right appointed time. I believe we as humans, we get frustrated when things don't happen and go the way that we want them to go, especially within our timeline. Am I the only one, like, when the timeline hits and I'm like, oh man, I didn't do this by this time, I get down on myself. And that goes back to, again, you have to be kind to yourself, right? And you have to have patience with yourself, because if you don't have patience with yourself, who's going to have patience with you? So we teach people how to treat us by the way we treat ourselves and the thoughts that we affirm in our minds. And so, have you been patient with yourself? Have you said, you know what, you may not get this degree finished in this set time, or the time that you thought you were, but you're going to finish this degree. You're going to finish school. You're going to put that kid through school. You're going to get your healing. You're going to buy that car. You're going to be financially free. You're going to be debt free. Maybe not in the time that you put on it, but you will be. And so be patient with yourself. Just because it hasn't happened overnight doesn't mean it's not going to happen. So be patient with yourself. Rome wasn't built in a day. I think especially in our society, I talk about us being in this popcorn society. We put something in the microwave and we expect it automatically in like 3 minutes or 3 months, a month for it to be ready. We want it now. Well, the thing is, I believe going through the pandemic, it really slowed us down and helped us to realize that it's okay if things don't happen in our timeline. It's okay if it takes a little bit longer, And I definitely feel like the pandemic helped me as a person appreciate my family and friends more, and then having human contact, because that can be taken away. Like, who would have thought that we would have been stuck in the house for literally 2 years, or wearing masks for 2 years? And so we have to be patient with ourselves, okay? Next, you have to give yourself grace. When I say that grace, God's grace is unmerited. So it's not earned. It's not something that we work for, but it's just giving freely to us. And when we truly give ourselves grace, we give ourselves room to grow. We give ourselves room to feel the way we feel. We give ourselves room to fail. Let me just talk about that for a minute. Failing is a part of being successful, y'all. Every person that you see, Elon Musk, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, who else can I think of? Barack Obama has had some type of failure in their life. And I think sometimes we get down on ourselves when we fail, but the thing about failing is you never will learn or you never will grow. So fail forward. I heard that. Fail forward. And that's what I do. My whole motto is, if I'm going to fail, I'm going to learn something and take something from it, but I'm going to keep moving forward. And that's another thing I talk about too, about when you do um, and doing things, right, and not getting the outcome that you want, you have to make sure that you are being good to you. Because if you are so hard on yourself to the point where you can't recover from it, or you beat yourself down, then that's what you're going to attract into your life. That's truly what it is. I think about the times where I've wanted to do better, and as far as me being organized, and I'm like, I project onto others like, oh, they see my, disorganization, or they see the lack of, but that may not be even the case. Not saying they don't see that, but I've already projected that out there. So anything that they do, I'm going to think, oh, they see that about me. So I'm attacking myself. I'm already putting myself down. Or they see that I have a problem with, taking direction or taking instruction. And it's like you automatically, when somebody comments on something that you do or you say, you're like, oh my gosh, they're being so critical of me. But no, you're being critical on yourself. So you have already put that thought out there, and you are projecting onto them what you believe about yourself. That's all you're doing. Okay? So again, I don't want to go too much off on a tangent, but make sure that you are giving yourself grace in those moments where things, again, are not going the way that you desire for them to go. Make sure you are honestly loving on yourself, giving yourself the extra time, giving yourself the extra space to move into something better. And know that you are human. You are human. We are human. That's the thing. I think we try to be so perfect or a perfectionist and try to get everything right all the time, but we will fail. We will always not meet the standard. And so when you know that you are human and you are never not going to be perfect, you are never ever going to be perfect. Nobody is, you know? And so you have to put these things in place in order to protect your sanity and your mind. So giving yourself grace, that's why I always say it. You do have to give yourself grace. And for those who don't give themselves grace, listen, I'm like, you have to be out of my circle, because I know if you're not going to give yourself grace, if you're not going to be patient with yourself, and if you're not being kind to yourself, that means that you're not going to be kind to me. You're not going to be graceful to me. You're not going to be patient with me. So I don't need you in my circle, and that's just what it is. And so I think those three things, I feel like, will get you off to a great start. Again, loving yourself is an inside job. And I want to end with this. Remember to be kind to yourself. Again, remember to be patient with yourself, and then give yourself grace. And lastly, again, I want to conclude this with, loving you is an inside job. I'm teaching you ways how you can love yourself, ways that you can start to love yourself. And this is only part one. But at the end of the day, when they say nobody can make you happy but you, that is so true. Because you are an individual first. And if you are not happy with who you are, if you are not happy with the way you look, if you are not happy with the way your body is made up, the way God made you, if you are not happy with your nose, your mouth, your lips, whatever it is, your feet, nobody can come in and convince you of that. I think there was a supermodel, and she thought she was like really ugly. She thought she was ugly, but she was so beautiful. It's like, you're looking in the mirror, you're looking at her, but if she doesn't think she's beautiful, then how can somebody else come in and tell her that she's beautiful? So you have to do this as an inside job. Before anybody else can make you happy or love you, you have to love yourself first, guys. You have to do all the things that's needed. You have to do the self work. And I feel like for me, for a long time, I didn't know what was needed to do the self work. I didn't know that I had to do certain things in order for me to be happy or for me to love myself. I didn't know that I had to put a routine in place in order for me to love myself. I didn't know I had to do affirmations, but on this journey, I learned to, and I learned to accept me for me. And at the end of the day, you have to be satisfied with you. You have to love you for you. You know, you came into this world on your own and you will die, by yourself. And you can't take none of this stuff with you. So this life was meant to be lived with purpose, but you have to love yourself. I feel like in order for you to live an abundant life, you have to learn to love yourself. There's no other way around it. The insecurities that you feel, it's because of you not healing whatever it is and not loving yourself. It starts with you first and nobody else. So you can't point the finger at somebody else and say, oh, you don't love me and I need you to make me feel like this. No, 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 no. Okay? This is an inside job. And if you don't love yourself first, nobody else will know how to love you. And learning to love yourself is knowing what you like and dislike. Learning what activities bring you happiness, learning what movies bring you happiness. And so do that for me. So practice those 3 things this week. Be patient with yourself, be kind with yourself, and give yourself grace in all situations. And then once you learn to do that, guess what? You can extend that to other people. When you're able to extend the love that you have yourself to other people, that is key, my friend. That is key. That is very important. So that's my challenge for you this week. Learn to love yourself. Do all those things for yourself. All right. So, what I want to say and end with, is that please go out and grab my book, Let Love Be Your Guide, Volume 1. If you know of somebody that's going through a divorce or is processing through a bad breakup, or just wanting to know transparency, my feelings about divorce, my personal journey, go and grab my book. I would love your support. I would love for you to be a part of my community. I'm building a community here of people who want to learn to love themselves and then teaching other people to do the same. We need more of that in this world. Love is what we need. Love is all we need. And so go subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you for watching. To those who have already subscribed, download the podcast, Buzzsprout, and just be well, y'all. It is Mental Health Awareness Month, and I just want you to be well. If you need help finding a therapist, DM me, email me at DominiqueChantel777@gmail.com. I would love to hear from you about the podcast, how it's helping you, what pointers, what you want to hear more of. Send me that information, okay? I love you guys, and know that if you learn to love yourself, you will have an abundant life. There's no other life to have than to have an abundant life if you learn to love yourself. So let love be your guide today, in life, forever, and always. Peace.